Yes, folks, as I indicated to you, we will have either Dr. George Vincent, Mr. Nazim Burke, or Mrs. Anesia Baptiste on the line to chit-chat with us. So I will have up next Mrs. Anesia Baptiste from St. Vincent. She is a former senator. Yes, she's a former senator in St. Vincent there, and she's the founder of the newest political party in St. Vincent and the Grenadines called the Democratic Republic Party, the DRP. She's one of the few young women political activists in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And Ms. Baptiste is the hostess of a weekly televised program called Serving, not Saving, boy, Saving is in my mind, Serving the People. And she frequently hosts that program there. And I can tell you that she will tell us a little more about herself. So I will, at this point in time, link up with her because she has been following the whole development with this electronic crimes bill. And she's very, very much concerned about this whole happenings. And she wants to have a say in the whole conversation. She listens to the program out there in St. Vincent. Good morning, Mrs. Baptiste.
Good morning, Kem.
You're live on the Eagle's Eye program, and welcome. And I hope everything is nice and dandy with you there in St. Vincent. How is St. Vincent this morning?
Well, thank you very much, and good morning to the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, and to all those who are listening to your program. It's now in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and, like every other nation, we have our daily challenges, but everything is all right by God's grace.
And how is things going with the Democratic Republican Party?
The Democratic Republican Party is the newest political party in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I'm its founder. And as it's new, it has its challenges in terms of organizing and growing and taking shape. But we're going well. We have our weekly television program called Serving the People, in which we bring our issues and issues that people want to hear about to them on the television. And we're doing well. We're gaining traction, as they would say. And we look forward to the next general elections, where we hope to field 15 candidates to give Vincentians an alternative in the face of the traditional two-party situation we've more or less had here for history,
Wonderful. Tell me this, you're a writer?
Yes, I used to host a weekly column in one of our local papers called The News newspaper. It was called, my column that is, was called Persistent Scrutiny, and I'm also the author of one book called Socialist Revolution from Grenada to St. Vincent. Yes, so I do some writing.
Beautiful. So it seems as though you wrote on Grenada, and as you indicated, their socialist revolution. Tell me a little about that book.
Interestingly, the book was actually a reflection on our experience here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where we had just come out of a referendum experience. The current regime had tried to bring a new constitution, the Constitution Bill 2009, and there was a great campaign which I led.
I don't know if you're hearing me properly. We're getting a little break.
Oh, are you hearing me now?
Yeah, yes, I'm hearing you now. Beautiful.
I was basically saying that the book reflects on the experience of Vincentians and my experience personally, certain anti-rights and anti-freedoms provisions in the Constitution Bill 2009, which our Prime Minister and government sought to bring to Vincentians. And what we found, or what I felt, was that our Honorable Prime Minister was trying to implement certain ideas and ideals which we thought was socialist or communistic into St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which were based heavily on Marxist and Leninist ideology. And I read a lot of books from the Grenada Revolution and issues on Maurice Bishop, etc., which I cited in my book basically to prove some of what I was saying. And so the book is really about St. Vincent's experience, but we deemed what was going on to be an attempt to bring about a socialist revolution here. And a lot of the ideas and ideals was grounded in our Prime Minister's affections and love for Marxism and Leninism, which he himself talked about in his experience with Maurice Bishop and others in Grenada. So that's how Grenada came
into
in
the
that
whole
sense, from
conversation.
Grenada to St.
But you were
Vincent. Yes,
also awarded, given this award by the International Global Affairs magazine, or you're featured, or award, you're honored, sorry, you're actually honored as
yes,
one of the top 100 global women in 2013 by the
yes,
Washington-based International Global Affairs magazine. Tell me a little about that
yes.
that kind of award bestowed
I
on
am a
you.
member. Yes, I'm a member of the Women's Democracy Network, WDN. It's a Washington-based network of women, um, which it has women members from all over the world. Their aim is to support and propagate women in leadership around the world. And in March of this year, 2013, I was invited to participate in their International Women's Day conference in Washington, D.C., along with other women from around the world, young women from places like Syria and Tunisia, persons who had actually participated in their revolutions in their countries and so on. It was very interesting. And I was the only person from CARICOM and OECS there. And while there, we were asked to submit interviews to the Diplomatic Courier, which is an international global affairs magazine in Washington. And the Diplomatic Courier was doing a special pullout in their online magazine for International Women's Day, in which they featured what they called the top 100 global women. And so I was one of the women, one of 10 women at the conference that year, who was chosen to be a part of their list of top 100 global women. I suppose they were impressed with my interview and so on, and they highlighted and featured me in their magazine, both
Beautiful.
electronically as well as electronically as well as hard copy. So it was a
Beautiful.
really important recognition for me, and I think for the region also, because like I said, I was the only person from CARICOM and OECS in that list of top 100 global women of the Diplomatic Courier.
Wonderful. Let's dive now into the extremely controversial electronic crimes bill that was passed yesterday. And you have been following this whole process keenly. Tell
Yes.
me about, what's your feelings, your opinion, your views on that piece of legislation.
Okay, well, first of all, Kem, I wanted to be understood that my comments of concern and indeed condemnation pertain to only certain sections of the Act. I'm not
Beautiful.
against the entire Act. The portions that forbid child pornography and so on, they are all well in place and good for any society.
Yes.
But certain sections of the Act I'm very concerned about because of the implications for the constitutional and indeed God-given or inalienable rights and freedoms of Grenadians and other persons who could be affected by it, and for other reasons. The second thing I want to make clear from the outset is why I feel it is justified for me as a member of the OECS and CARICOM to be concerned. And if you go to Section 3 of the Act, that
Yes.
speaks about the application of the Act, where and how the Act will apply, it really shows that it will have implications on members of CARICOM, the Caribbean community, and OECS traveling through Grenada, working in Grenada. I mean, it reaches into those realms. And I am concerned about particularly the implications for certain articles in the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, which establishes the Caribbean community, including the CARICOM single markets and economy. Because in Article 45 and 46, it speaks to the issue of the free movement of the nationals within CARICOM. And 46 in particular emphasizes that skilled community nationals, according to certain categories, and those categories include media workers, artists, so you're talking about calypsonians, musicians. These persons in Article 46 of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas on the Caribbean community basically upholds the right of these categories of persons to seek employment within CARICOM. But the application section of your act, the Electronic Crimes Act of 2013, which was passed in your Senate yesterday, essentially has the potential of criminalizing the work of CARICOM nationals, in the case of media workers, artists, etc., as they pass through Grenada, being just in transit. If you send out something electronically, let's say you post a song you just did, a calypso,
Yes.
and it has information in it that is critical, very critical of, let's say, the government, and it has information that can be deemed, according to the Act, as causes, can be deemed to annoy or to offend or to insult somebody. I'm not talking about information that is defamatory, that is telling any lie, but just having information that can be deemed
Yeah,
like
I'm not hearing you properly.
right?
Right.
If you just publish stuff like that electronically as a CARICOM national and somebody is offended, you could be brought up before the courts in Grenada for having breached this law.
Right.
And the potential of having to go to jail or pay a fine of up to $100,000 and go to jail for up to 1 year, it is absolutely outrageous. So it brings into question the commitment of Grenada's government to the aims and the goals of CARICOM, where the free movement of nationals and the right to seek employment in their jurisdiction of CARICOM nationals is concerned. And so as a CARICOM national myself, I find it is undermining the whole intention of those aims and objectives that set out in the treaty. And it makes me really question Grenadians, whether or not you all really thought about it, the government that is. I know that there were concerns before expressed, even by some CARICOM members at a recent CARICOM meeting, and I know that your Prime Minister pulled back, withdrew the bill, and I'm hearing that there were consultations, but as is evident, there were no changes when it came to the Senate yesterday, and it was passed. It was, as you said, bulldozed through. And I'm very concerned about that, and I feel justified in having my say, on the matter.
I fully agree.
But in addition, this brings me to the actual concern about the bill in terms of the nature of the language, and this is my position. I think the fundamental flaw with Section 6 and 16, for example, is the nature of the language used. The language has no interpretation guidance. You have a section in the Act that deals with interpretation, yet nothing in the interpretation section explains to the people what will be deemed as grossly offensive, what will be deemed as annoying, what will be deemed as insult. There's nothing given interpretation guidance. So the whole thing is just subjective and uncertain. When you have words and expressions like grossly offensive, annoy, insult, that can cause inconvenience. These things all lack legal certainty. And as a student of law, I recently completed my Bachelor of Laws degree at the University of London. You can't have a law, okay, which does not give sufficient information to those who are the subjects of that law, that doesn't give sufficient information to them to help them to be able to regulate their behavior so they know what it is and what it is not to breach or not breach that law.
Yes.
Legal certainty is a foundational requirement for the guarantee of the principle of the rule of law. So y'all are in serious trouble there in Grenada, because what is going to happen is that you're having the criminalizing of subjective feelings. Kem, whether or not you feel insulted or I feel insulted by something somebody sends to us electronically, it's totally dependent on us,
yes,
how we feel.
Yes.
Okay? And let's take a scenario. I want the people to understand what I'm saying practically. Let's say person A sends some information electronically to you, Kem Jones. You see it, you get offended to the point of becoming emotionally upset. That is essentially what offense means. And you decide you're going to use the law that is before you, the Electronic Crimes Bill, under Section 6, subsection 1, paragraph A. You're going to use it, and you're going to go to court and say, well, this person sent something electronically to me which was grossly offensive, I say they should be charged. Person B sends the same information to Anesia Baptiste, let's say I'm in Grenada, electronically, and I just say, oh, that is foolishness, and I ignore it. You know what's going to happen there? If the judge rules that person A is guilty of offending you, causing gross offense, that person could be fined or go to jail. But for the same information, because I just decided to ignore it because it's nothing really, and I could bear that, I could tolerate that, person B goes free. So then there's no equality under the law.
Yes.
You understand me?
Yes.
And then who determines whether the information is grossly offensive or annoys or insults, seeing there is no legal certainty? The judge? You're leaving it up to one man, the arbitrary feelings of one man, to decide on those things? So then the law is not certain. The judge makes law every time. Some people go free, some people are charged. That is not how law is supposed to be, and that is not how government is supposed to function. Government is not supposed to find itself doing these kind of things. It's not the role of government. And when I heard a particular senator yesterday debating, saying that, I think he said something to the effect that it's not the role of government to choke out people's opinion. I was like, yeah, hooray,
Yeah.
that's the truth.
I think it was Senator
Burke.
Huh?
I think it was Senator Nazim Burke who I
Yes.
heard say that,
Yes.
as I was following. So it is a very problematic law, and it will have serious implications. Now, in the case of Section 16, dealing with electronic stalking, I have a problem with that too, not only for the language, but even for the way the section is described. Can't understand how making a statement electronically which insults or annoys is defined as stalking. Stalking usually suggests some sort of continuous process, something being repeated, like harassment. But
Right.
a person could say something to you once and it insults you. So how is that stalking? There's a lot of problems. It's as if the law is redefining terms that people understand already.
Right.
And really and truly, legislation should not criminalize insult and annoyance. These are all subjective feelings. My brother, even the truth could be seen as annoying and insulting. Even the truth could be seen as inconvenient. You're going to jail people for speaking the truth? You're going to
Right.
jail people for their opinion?
Yes.
You cannot have a law like that. In my opinion, humbly speaking, it will encourage immaturity in society. What are you going to do? Encourage citizens to engage the legal system every time they've been offended? You're going to waste the court's time. You're going to waste resources. It's a backward trend. It will encourage self-censorship if people are afraid. Okay? It will hurt free expression, instilling fear in a society. And it will remove the important exercise of criticism, which is necessary for the evolving of better ideas and development in a society. Because people will be afraid to be critical, seeing that they could be charged for offending someone or insulting someone or saying things that are inconvenient.
Right.
And let's not those oppose what I am saying and what I heard some other senators say, like what I'm saying yesterday. Let not those who oppose it try to say.
Yeah, your phone have a little problem though.
My phone has a problem.
Yeah, getting a little. Yeah, go ahead.
Let not those who oppose it try to say, who oppose what I'm saying, try to say that the bill is dealing with information that is false. Because it is not all the sections that deals with information that is false. There's some sections that just say information which you know can insult. But you can't send a person to jail for saying something just because they know if they say it, another person will be insulted. Insult is subjective to you and whoever the person is. What can insult you? I might not even bother with it. What can offend you? I might just ignore it, or vice versa, right?
Well,
So this is a serious problem in Grenada right now, and I'm very afraid that you could look forward to, unfortunately, you could look out for state-sponsored persecution of critics, or even religious critics or whoever, because the fact is, this is so wide and open, it will affect the freedoms of all kinds of people to communicate electronically. And in this 2015, 21st century, modern age and time, I consider this a backward trend for democracy and the principles that are rights and freedoms of the people. I seriously think that the government of Grenada needs to repeal the evil sections in Section 6 and 16 in particular in that electronic crimes bill. They need to repeal them.
Thank you.
They don't even, they don't even commit to the basic principles of law, and they are not for the people, neither of Grenada nor of the region.
Right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Baptiste, and I wish you all the best for the entire day. Is there anything that you would want to wrap up with? Because we actually out of time. We have to get 2 other senators.
Okay, I just want to thank you for the opportunity and to wish Grenadians all the best, and you really should be calling upon your government to repeal those evil sections. They are dangerous, and they're not just dangerous for the people under the current government, but if government changes and doesn't repeal those sections, it will be dangerous also for their opponents.
Thank you.
God bless you all.
Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day. So, folks, that was Mrs. Anesia Baptiste out there in the St. Vincent, or neighbors, the St. Vincent and the Grenadines, former senator, lecturer at the University of the West Indies, Keyville campus, and also she just received her law degree and quite a number of achievements under her belt. I didn't dive into that, but thank you very much, and we hope to have you back again, and we hope to hear that your party is making great progress out there in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's the Democratic Republican Party, and I know she will be back on the program in the future, and I wish her all the best.
First of all, say good morning to you, Kem, and good morning to all of the listeners.
Let's move now to the electronic crimes bill, because this is even more controversial.
Absolutely. You see, it is more controversial because what is at stake is not just revenues and income for the country as a whole, but what is at stake is individual rights and freedoms. I listened this morning to Mrs. Baptiste from St. Vincent,
Yes.
and I have to say that she did a tremendous presentation. You see, she captured all of the essential things that one needs to understand and appreciate with good illustrations of her points, and I think that it was a lesson, really, in human rights, you see. The Constitution of the country guarantees certain rights. When we say that those rights are inalienable, we mean that nobody can give it to you and nobody can take it away from you. You're born with those rights. You see? You're born with those rights. As a human being, when you're born with those rights. Nobody can take them away from you. And what the Constitution does is guarantee and protect those rights. It says that a person should be free to have their opinion, to hold their conscience, and to think what they want to think. That is human, and nobody should try to take that away, because you can't take it away from people. And if you pass laws to take it away, then you're violating humanity, and that's what the Constitution does. It guarantees that, and one of those things is the right to say what you think. It is understood to have an opinion and to share the opinion.
Yes.
It is understood that, you can't willy-nilly and trample on other people's rights in the course of doing that. And the Constitution recognizes that it's a balancing of interests and a balancing of rights that are concerned. But where you are going to try to curtail individual rights and freedoms, you must do so in a way that is certain, you must do so in a way that is predictable, you must do so in a way that is balanced. You cannot pass laws that provide an opportunity really to the government to be abusive and to attack its political enemies and try to silence people and push them into a position of self-censorship, you see?
Right.
And this is essentially what the problem with Section 6 is. It says, for example, that if you do something that you knowingly you knew that will cause inconvenience to people, or what is inconvenience? Or it's going to annoy somebody. Ms. Baptiste gave a good example of how it can affect person A but not affect person B. It can even go beyond that. Kem, I may call somebody
Yes.
and say something to them, and the person is extremely annoyed by it. And you call that same person and say the same thing to them, and they'll just laugh at you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it means that there needs to be some objective standard by which you're going to judge people to ensure certainty, to assist the judges in their decision making, and so as not to tie up the court with all kind of trivialities and confusion. Our main concern really in all of this is the opportunity for political abuse and political witch hunt by politicians. It is no secret that under the former NNP administration, a number of persons were brought to court either criminally or civilly by individuals. Of course, we can't take issue with a man's right to sue somebody civilly if he wants to sue. He is free to do that if he wants to do it. But criminally, we've had situations where, Grenada today was pulled in, Tillman Thomas was threatened himself, Stanley Charles was pulled in, Leroy Noel was pulled in, and then, of course, you had threats being issued to Offshore Alert, and even some veiled threats, I understand, were Frederick and so on of suing. Right. So what you do not want is that somebody is using the machinery of the state and the apparatus of the state to choke their opponents, the political opponents, because they have the means to do so. We naturally saw this coming. We spoke about it before the elections. We warned the Grenadian people that this was going to happen. We told the Grenadian people, this guy cannot change. It's the same people with the same attitude, with the same objectives, with the same aims. Grenada is in for a terrible ride. And I mean, you heard the woman speaking herself. The more you listen to other regional persons as they speak, the more you realize how ashamed they are that Grenadians have made this choice. I mean, it is terrible. If you go to any of the countries, you'll feel it, But at this point, we are where we are.
Yes.
And I think what we have to do is we have to join together, shoulder to shoulder, to